Good day. Good day, my friends. Today, the subject is what will the immediate future hold? And what a fantastic subject this is. Not the future, but the immediate future. I love that idea. I love that. The past, the immediate past, the ancient past, ancient history, the past, real past, prehistoric. Everything has gradations. Years ago in the world of radio, people said, this is your favorite oldies story. I said, what determines oldies? When is a record, a song, an oldie? When is it a classic? Classic rock versus oldies. Oldies sound like 50s, 30s. The minuet, Mozart. How do you figure out these words? What do these words mean? If you don't have any innate skill at parsing gradations of observation, you're wasting your time. If you cannot really look at things and say, that's interesting, you're missing the point. You will be forever without the ability to prosper as a citizen. It's so interesting. I just completed one of the most, I think you will find it interesting. I don't know whether it's for this particular subject matter, though we'll talk about it. But there was a piece I did on the Dominion trial, and they have been taking a series of depositions. And one of the interesting aspects of it is that there was a report, and there was I don't know how true this is, from, I think it was Washington, well, a lot of different, but the one I looked at was either National Review or New York Times, or I forget what it was, but it suggested that during the course of a deposition, it was alleged that Sean Hannity, under oath, said something to the effect, and I paraphrase this greatly, something to the effect of, I didn't really believe any of that story. I didn't think that Dominion was involved in any kind of chicanery or manufacturing of results. I didn't really believe Trump's claim. I didn't believe it. What I just did was, at LionelMedia.com, was explain to you, that's not the thing to say. That's not good. Now, again, I never put any type of credence or any type of hope or any type of belief in what I hear regarding courts unless I'm there. But that is not a good thing to say. And one of the things I wanted to teach you was for you to sit back for a minute, and let me explain to you this notion of defamation and libel and what it means and what are we really trying to accomplish from this? What are we trying to really accomplish with defamation? And the idea is that we don't want you to say something that you know is false in order to hurt someone else, to destroy their character, their reputation, their business. We don't want you to say something that you know is false. We don't want you to say something that you know is false. If you say something that you believe is true and turns out it's not, well, that's one thing. But when you know something is false, when you know it, that's what we really don't want you to. That's what we really don't want you to do. We don't like that. We are particularly troubled by that. That's a problem. We don't like you. You can have opinions. You can say things sometimes that are kind of crazy, but you're not making them as a system of fact. You got to be careful with that. So if you thought something, if somebody says, for example, let's just assume if all of a sudden, lo and behold, there's Hannity or somebody, and he says, I thought they did. I thought the whole time that it was, I thought Sidney Powell and all these other people were spot on with that. I thought for sure. That's what I thought. That was my opinion. Well, that's one thing. So you didn't deliberately know this to be false? Oh no, I thought it was true. That kind of hurts the bad faith allegation. That kills this thing called malice. And malice is defined as either knowing something that you know is false, or saying something that you know is false, or having reckless disregard for the truth. And it's used sometimes, we're not going to go into too many detail. So when you say that, if you say, I didn't believe it. Now I need to know more information, but that's not good. It's the opposite that's protected. See where we get into? And you know the problem that I have online is that nobody will listen. They want to start opining. They want to start talking about this. They want to start weighing in with insults about people, saying, no, that's not what I want to do. Let's talk about the facts of this case. Let's talk about how the dissemination of opinion and observation and analysis and commentary oftentimes are not explications of the truth. You're not saying this is a fact. You're saying this is kind of what I believe in. This is what I think is. And it's going to be one of the new areas that we're going to get into regarding truth is doxing. What is that? What is that? What is the statement of something which is true, but that invades privacy? Now, a lot of states have gotten away from that particular tort. I think you're going to be seeing in the future a revisiting. I hope we do. Putting you in a bad light. Bringing up something that is something that you that hurts you, but it deals with a subject that's true. But then we get into really hard stuff. It's like, wait a minute, hold it. The truth hurts, that sort of thing. It's a fascinating subject. When people are talking about Zelensky, it's the most. And you know what? Tucker Carlson is, I think, in this case, the bravest. He does this extremely sloppy work sometimes by having on Tulsi Gabbard and that other one and the other one and the other one. The usual stuff, because it's a very easy lifting. And now let's stop and talk to some talk show host who is going to lend absolutely nothing to this particular topic, but it's easier for me. I can sit back and let them do some talking, or pursue some ridiculous model of today's world in which you have to have a guest all the time. You got to have a guest. Rush Limbaugh never had a guest, I think maybe once, unless it was a real guest. You got to break from these rules of convention, which is what I believe. But back to what I said, he is to be commended. And yet he is called a Putin apologist. Now here's something interesting, and maybe you'll disagree with me, but I have not met once, and this is important, and I'm not saying this to be gratuitous, I mean it. I have not met somebody who says, yay, Putin. Who was it? Russian, I guess, or maybe, I don't know, but I've never met that. They always sound like people say, what side are you on? I've never met anybody who said, yay, I love that guy. He's my favorite. I mean, I'm sure there are. I just haven't met anybody. You know what I mean? Sometimes there are people like, well, I kind of, sometimes you'll see people like, some people might like that Trudeau. The whole thing with his mother and who his father was, whatever. During the Vietnam War, when people said, I don't think we really should be in Vietnam, I didn't know anybody then who said, "Hey, Ho Chi Minh, yay! Viet Cong, NVA, yeah!" Remember General Giap? Remember him? He was the real military genius. You see that? There were people who actually were not too thrilled about, and Pat Buchanan had some reservations regarding World War II. There are people who might have questioned the actual official story of the Japanese attacking us on December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy. Some people who call into question that, I don't think we're secretly siding with Hirohito or whatever it is. You see, so those words don't make any sense. So again, these are these gradations. These are these gradations. So the future is going to be words and opinion and how. And I guess what you can do, going back to the original Hannity story, he could have said this: "Hello, my first guest is this nutcase, Sidney Powell, who you've got to admit just loved being Sidney Powell. We're going to unleash the Kraken. Ooh. Loads of memes. Ooh, I like her. Phones are going crazy. Look at all these. I'm going to be on all these shows. It's great. It's good for your law firm, good for your business, right? Makes sense, doesn't it? Of course it does. But, now Dominion, if you can show, very rarely, a lot of times people say, yeah, they said these terrible things about you, but did you suffer any monetary damage? Well, not really. Dominion, I think, is going to be in the position where they can almost be like the way of Shinola. Dominion, that name. Would you want a Dominion voting machine or voting system? That's their argument. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. But listen carefully to the argument and understand the bases, the thrust of this. If somebody says, now wait a minute, you didn't believe this? Oh, of course not. But why'd you have her on? I don't know. Now Dominion, by the way, is claiming, and again, I provide all of this information for you, all of this, in terms of here at Lionel Media. Let me provide a link to you. I can go into greater detail regarding that, which is fantastic, because I can spend some time and talk about areas that we need to discuss and the like. But also notice the Ukraine thing is over and is done with. We're done with it. We are through, because we're waiting now for the big snow bomb to take place. The snow bomb. The big bomb. The snow that's going to destroy and cripple. And one day we're going to find out that the world of weather, and I have no particular, certain aspects of it can be absolutely manufactured and exacerbated with cloud seeding, and we've been knowing that since Operation Popeye. But it's a fascinating subject. Did you also notice recently there was a story about the 9/11 families who want to investigate more and look into Saudi Arabia? And of course, they have got to know when to stop. See, because they're not called conspiracy theorists merely because they're trying to identify actual actors. But when they traverse certain lines in order to get to Saudi Arabia, for whatever reason, then they are called conspiracy theorists. We'll stop right there. Let me remind you, my dear friends, that on the 14th of January, in the year 2023 Common Era, I'm going to be gracing the stages and charging the stage and gracing the portals of the one, the only Cutting Room in New York City, and I would so love to see you there. So Love tickets are available. Operators are standing by. It is one of those things that I thoroughly enjoy. It is an extension of this, I don't want to say performance art, because I'm not sure what you want to call this, but I enjoy it more than you can imagine. So it's a night of me and you and music and cards and questions and interactive and immersive. And not only that, so many of us really have so few people that we can actually talk to and that we can be a part of and we can deal with. I find that to be so incredibly fascinating. I also want to remind you of something which I am so thoroughly fascinated by, and this is EMP Shield, and I provide the link accordingly. With everything that we are talking about in terms of armament and warfare, the most fascinating of them all, which you knew about and I knew about and we've known about since the beginning of time. I remember James Woolsey, was it Woolsey? He gave a lecture I listened to about EMPs. But he believed Iran could be responsible for dropping and detonating a suborbital nuclear bomb, in essence, that would fry what amounts to our grid with his huge electromagnetic pulse. And this subject matter has always fascinated me because, remember, as I told you, if I were going to be a disease, the disease I would be AIDS. That's the disease I would want to be. And the reason why is because it doesn't, I wouldn't go in and cause complete organ failure directly, like through cancer. Cancer is unimaginative to me. It's boring. AIDS is fascinating because AIDS involves the suppression and the turning off, if you will, of the immune system. And that's what I find to be utterly fascinating. And what's interesting about the grid going in is I, in essence, turn off a country's ability to think and to communicate. So check this out, EMP Shield. There is the link right now. And if you think about something that affects your phone, your generator, RV, camper, this and that, ham radio, and he always say, during a time of horror or terror or calamity, ham radio. Well, that might be a problem too. I always like to think as the bad guy or the disease does, is what I do. These Idaho murders? Yes. What I'm hearing, and by the way, I hear some great stuff that probably sounds plausible, but there's no evidence yet, so I don't really say anything. But I hear things. I'm hearing great stuff about the De Niro burglary. Oh, but that's, when something sounds plausible, but I think we need some more evidence on that one before I say something just because it sounds good. But it sounds reasonable. And if I were a detective, I know just which area I want to go to. Because probable cause and reasonable doubt are two things. Oh, by the way, you know this right now. The official merch, here it is. Okay. I also want to tell you about something which is interesting and how people overreact. Oh my God, do they overreact? One of the things which I find so fascinating is when people think you're talking about them. I think dogs are wonderful. I've told you before that I think what dogs can do, and the Border Collie is I think it's my favorite in terms of just how smart they are and what it does. I think ravens and corvids are interesting, and magpies and crows are, and dogs. I told you one time, I think I told you a story about this tracking dog I had a case with years ago. It was found this guy who molested a little girl, and this old dog tracked this guy for miles. And I love dogs, But last night we're in a store, little drugstore, local, and this lady people bring their dogs into drugstores, and it's and they smell and they're sniffing you, and don't bring your dog inside. This is a store. Dogs don't belong in stores. Little puppy inside of a bag, okay, fine, but not some big thing I'm tripping over and people are. No. But people have this idea, love me, love my dog. And people are weird about dogs. Dogs in baby carriages? Very strange. So I just posted this thing, tweeted this particular idea that this is your dog. Oh my God, people went crazy. You grumpy old man. I've been saying this my whole life. I like dogs, not your dog. Not your dog sniffing me, drooling on me, inside, sometimes you can't escape. Outside is one thing. Okay, I dig that. Parks, stores, restaurants? No. And I'm not talking service dogs either. It's the height, as people say, of rudeness. Just like people say, Tijuana. If I hear Tijuana one more time, I'm going to scream. It's Tijuana. Anyway, people go crazy with this. People go crazy. I also love when people claim to be Christian and know nothing about the faith, nothing about the Bible. They don't go to church. They don't go to services. They don't do anything. They know nothing about it. Nothing. But they wear their Christianity like a sleeve. He is risen. Oh, you posted that, didn't you? Well, that's very nice. Anything else you do? No, that's about it. So you're a Christian. Yep. Okay. And do you follow the... No, I don't really, care about that. But I tell people, or I will post, 1 Corinthians. Say what? I let people know this because I wear my faith on my sleeve. I want everybody to know it. I'm conspicuously Christian. And I guess other faiths do it too. I just don't see it. I don't see Muslims or Jews always citing, some Talmudic or some Quranic. I don't see that, except for Christians. And there's nothing better than the loudmouth 20-something-year-old, young, new conservative wannabe who says, I'm going to now, conquer the world of conservative opinion because I'm going to be a Christian. This has been going on since the 80s. This is 40-something years old. This is the moral majority. What are you, James Dobson? What are you all of a sudden? Nothing's new. Oh, people get very upset with that. Isn't that something? You read into them. There's an old joke, and I'm going to try to clean this up, but it makes the point. Guy walks into a bar and yells, "All lawyers are a-holes." And some guy at the end of the bar says, "Hey, I resent that." He says, "I'm sorry. What are you, you a lawyer?" He says, "No, I'm an a-hole." Okay. The moral of the story is that people will read into it anything they want, not what you said, but the way they see it, the way they interpret it. It's about them. Everything is vis-a-vis their point of view. Remember this. When you're talking to somebody, it doesn't matter what you think. It does not matter what you think. It matters what they think. Let me also say, too, I have had the most incredible response in appearing with my good friend George Galloway on Moats, M-O-A-T-S, the mother of all talk shows. Yeah. Oh, what a wonderful time. And I could listen to his voice and patois all day long. That's the way I feel about that. Now, speaking of which, a couple of things too, which is I want to remind you to follow, as I do this, Lynn's Warriors. And this is L's newsletter. Because let me tell you something right now. This is something that is... There is so much going on right now regarding children, you simply have no idea. And you will never hear it on any show whatsoever. You don't even hear it really. I mean, you don't really hear it. I mean, you hear more of it But you don't hear it on conservative platforms. You don't hear it from anybody because nobody, frankly, cares about kids, which is something which I will never understand as long as I live. I do not understand how that works. Of all the people in the world, kids. I was watching something last night. Don't ask me. It was the most brilliant. It was a lecture series on YouTube on how doctors do a newborn inspection. It was brilliant. I never had any idea. And this was a pediatrician who was explaining, and it was a class for doctors apparently to maintain their specialty or whatever it is. But he went through this, and you don't realize, oh my God, how just what to look for. Did you know one of the things, look for ears? You look at the eye, and you draw a straight line from the eye back, and this straight line should basically not bisect, but actually separate between the top third of the ear. Ears and renal failure, kidney failure, are somehow associated. They have different reflexes and palmars, and it is brilliant. And you look at this, and then there was the psych part of it. Oh God, I love that. Have you ever heard Ellen Sachs talk about psychotic breakdowns and schizophrenia, and you don't really understand what normalcy is until you understand what that is. It's brilliant. And when you look at children, we were children. We look at children and old people like they're somebody else. You were that, or you hope will be that. It's so funny how we congregate and segregationalize, if you will, our positions in this. Incredible. During the whole course of Mr. Zelensky's speech, I thought it was very interesting. He was talking about different stuff. And he was talking about how he needed all this money. And, of course, nobody said anything. And nobody asked any questions. Nobody ever said, what exactly are we involved with in this? What is our, how does this work? Why should we do this? Why should we pay for you? Why should we? It was a very, very interesting aspect of this. And the one thing which nobody ever talked about, and they still don't talk about, with all that is going on, and I think this is so interesting, what we never talk about still is this notion of supply chain. It fascinates me. And with the more and more of these dangers that are occurring with every passing day, you would think that people would want to talk about food shortages. And it never ceases to amaze me. That's why My Patriot Supply is going the extra mile to make their emergency food as affordable as possible by taking $250 off of their 3-month emergency food kit, which is the maximum your family should have. And this kit, if you will, provides easy-to-make breakfast, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks for one person for a 3 solid month period. And you've got to get one for each member of your family as you prepare for these things. We're looking at Zelensky, which is fine, and we're looking at warfare and whatever, but this can happen here. And not necessarily just because of war, but because of elsewhere. Now, right now, by going to preparewithlionel.com, these 3-month kits are in stock. They're ready to go, and they are fast and free, and they arrive in unmarked boxes, and I cannot possibly implore you enough to see to it that you take advantage of this instanter. Okay? My Patriot Supply, but preparewithlionel.com. Preparewithlionel.com. We are waiting also towards the end of this time, if you will, for this snow. I read something the other day about Santa Claus. May I ask you a very simple question? Do you think it is healthy, it is a good idea to provide, to explain, to perpetuate in your home and to children the story of Santa Claus? Yes or no? Press number 1 for yes, number 2 for no. Do you think Santa Claus is a good idea? Because right now there are people, of course, as you can imagine, who, in addition to wanting to destroy everything that is considered traditional, they think Santa Claus must go. Why? Because it's tradition. Do you think it's a good idea? Yes or no? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. And you always have to ask this question. And I say absolutely, positively, without a doubt, that it is the most important experiential and imaginative aspect that kids thrive with and on. Santa Claus is important. Why do I say that? If you've ever exercised, sometimes you will bend your legs and you will stretch in ways that you never ever mimic during the actual run itself. You will pull a leg behind your back and you think, you don't run like that. No, but stretching it that way allows you to be limber in another area, in another, I guess, movement structure. Sometimes by doing like, this and all that stuff, it helps you. When a child is allowed to dream and imagine and open its mind to the idea of wonder and object permanence and lack thereof, and this Piaget's theory, and to imagine and to dream and to look forward to. And then later on you jump from Santa Claus to God, another important concept. It does more to facilitate that child's development than anything else. And anybody who deliberately deprives a child of that is hurting that child. No doubt about it whatsoever. Anybody who prevents a child from enjoying this, anybody, is permanently depriving a child of something so important and so critical. And even though I have talked about, later on in life, realizing that my parents may have been in on it, maybe it was maybe it was almost a red pill in many respects. Whereas some other kids never enjoyed it at all. I think I benefited tremendously. Because what it does is it taught me how to appreciate the notion of awe. And people use the word awesome and amazing, and they really don't know what they're talking about. Because in order for you to appreciate that, you have to have a sensitivity to that reflex. And one of the greatest ways to appreciate that reflex initially when you're a kid is Santa Claus. Absolutely, positively, 100%. To deny a child Santa Claus is child abuse in some respects. It's not actionable, but you are depriving your child of a flavor, a texture, a mental ability, a cognitive ability, an imaginational talent that it would not know were it not for Santa Claus. Can't say that enough. Can't say it enough. Remember, you are an adult. Think like a child. Think what they think. And if you really care about the way they develop and what they see and what they think and what they feel, believe me, if you did, every parent in raising a child would do it differently the second time because of what you know. You know flat out what kids need and what they don't need and what hurts them. And just like you've got to provide food and clothing and shelter, you've also have to provide them with a cognitive environment that makes them feel good and whole and sane and fulfilled and the like. Now, one more thing I want to talk to you about being warm and being taken care of, and that is the great folks, my good friend Mike Lindell at mypillow.com/Lionel. Go for yourself. Look and see. Look at the number. If you want to call the number, 800-645-4965. 800-645-4965. Promo code Lionel. See what Mike Lindell has available for you. and understand what he has gone through and what he goes through, in addition to providing this incredible product for you and yours. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. All right, my friends, I want to thank you for being a part of this. Give yourself a big round of applause. We have 2 more days until Christmas. Here we are. I hope you are happy. I hope you are safe. Be very, very careful. It's going to be a big snowmageddon of some sort, whatever that thing is called. And I'm not suggesting it's manufactured, but I think we would be surprised at just how much science and governments have been able to control that we never knew they were able to in the first place. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you, my friends. Have a great and a glorious day. See you tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Don't forget, follow me at lionelmedia.com for more in-depth stuff. And until then, don't forget, 9 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. As we always end with this valedictory, the monkey's dead, the show's over, sue ya. Ta-ta.